Hi everyone, my name is Justin Lim. I'm an assistant professor here at Graduate School of Environmental Studies in the Department of Environmental Design, and I'm here to talk about tall buildings and their impacts on urbanism in modern cities. And before we dive in, I would like to talk about some terminologies regarding tall buildings, because there are many terms to describe building that is tall. So what is tall and what is a tall building versus what is a tower, what is a skyscraper? Because there are so many definitions out there, we rely on a group called the Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, as known as CTBUH. They investigate and research on how increased urban density and vertical growth can actually support more sustainable and healthy cities, especially in the era of mass urbanization and increased effects of climate change worldwide. And first and foremost, we need to talk about what is a building versus a tower. According to CTBUH, to be considered as a building, you need to have at least 50% of its height must be occupiable. Otherwise, it is just a tower. So like the Oriental Pearl television tower in Shanghai is a tower because it has less than 50% of its height is occupiable. Whereas Jim Mao Tower in the same city is a building because it has over 50% of its height usable floor area. So for example, a building or a tower like this or something like this is considered to be a tower, a telecommunication tower, because this has basically a zero occupiable floor area. There are also two different characteristics of tall buildings. So one is single function and the other is mixed use. Single function is when 85% of the building is occupied by single use function. So say, Taipei 101 in Taiwan, which has over 85% of its floor space dedicated for office uses. So it is considered to be a single-use tower or building. But Guangzhou CTF Finance Center is considered to be a mixed-use tower because it has more than two functions, where each of the function occupying a significant proportion of the tower's total space. And there are also three different height categories as well. So any buildings under 300 meters are considered to be just tall. From 300 meters to 600 meters are considered to be super tall, and above 600 meters is considered to be mega tall. If you look at the Lotte World Tower in Jamsil, which is 555 meters to the tip, this is considered to be a super tall, not a mega tall tower. There are also different ways to measure tall buildings as well, because every building is obviously unique to its architectural, mechanical, and structural design. So they created three categories for that as well. So one method is to measure the buildings to the tip. There's ways to measure to the architectural height and also to the occupiable heights as well. So if we look at these two towers on the screen, the Willis Tower in Chicago and Petronas Towers in Malaysia, depending on what measuring method is used, one might be taller than the other. And so using these definitions, we have different rankings of tall buildings around the world. If we measure to the height to the architectural top, then the world's tallest buildings look something like this. But it changes if we measure them to the highest occupied floor, and further changes if you measure them to the highest point of the building or the tip of the building. CTBUH also recommends to have two of the three categories in order to be considered as a tall building. So the first category is contextual. So there's no absolute definition of what is considered to be a tall building, as the definition of tall is actually subjective. So for example, if we look at the city of Santiago, Chile, most of the buildings are about 10 to 20 stories tall, and if you put a 20-story building or 21-story building, it is not going to be considered as tall because it is going to blend in with the rest of the context. But if you put the same 21-story building in a single-family residential district, it is considered to be distinctly actually taller than the rest of the urban form. So height, tall, is actually very subjective thing. Next category is proportion or slenderness. So there are many buildings that are not particularly high, but slender enough to give the appearance of a tall building. There's also buildings that have large footprint that are quite high, but their size and floor area rule them out of being classes as a tall building. A good comparison is the Chicago Merchandise Mart versus the One Central Park in Sydney, Australia. They're pretty close in height, both within the range of 100 meters to 110 meters. But One Central Sydney appears to be tall because of its proportion. Last category is if the building is embracing technologies relevant to tall buildings, like the John Hancock Tower in Chicago. If a building contains technologies which may attribute as being a product of tall, for example, structural bracing on the facades of the Hancock Tower or vertical transportation technologies of the Lloyd's London in England.